Hello everyone, before I start my movie review, here's my little Marlon Brando impersonation of Stanley. Stella! Hey Stella! Now that I got my Marlon Brando impression out of the way, here's my review of A Streetcar Named Desire from 1951. It was made by Warner Bros. It's a drama film based on a playwright by Tennessee Williams. A Streetcar Named Desire was released on September 18, 1951. The film grossed $8 million at the box office and was highly praised by critics, fans, and audiences when it was released. It was nominated for 12 Academy Awards. It won 4 awards. It won Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Supporting Actress, and Best Art Direction. The film was directed by Elia Kazan, as you all know, who direct films like On the Waterfront, East of Eden, and he's also known for blacklisting Hollywood actors, actresses, writers, producers, and directors. The movie was produced by Charles K. Fieldman. The music was done by Alex North. The film stars Vivian Leigh, as you all know, who played Scarlett in Gone with the Wind. Marlon Brando in his second film, as you all know, became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, like The Godfather, On the Waterfront, etc., and so many more classic films. Kim Hunter and Carl Malden. The story to A Streetcar Named Desire is about Blanche Du Bois, who is a former school teacher who moves from Mississippi to New Orleans to live with her younger sister Stella and brother-in-law Stanley. During her stay and visit, she causes a lot of problems, especially how we see that Stanley and Stella have a violent relationship, which causes a lot of big conflict for the Kowalski family. Here's a little background how when I first saw Streetcar Named Desire. The first time I saw Streetcar Named Desire was back in 2011, my senior year of high school. I took this English class where we had to read the playwright and then watch the movie and write an essay about it. And when I first saw Streetcar Named Desire, I really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie. Despite, there's some minor differences and changes they had to make from the book to the movie, because may I remind you, this was the 1950s. The Hollywood directors could not get past the Hays Code of cutting out the themes of rape and homosexuality. Even though some people argue and debate that this film did not really do 100% justice to the playwright novel, which is probably true to some degree. But in my opinion, despite the Hays Code and they had to cut out certain things, I still think this film did just enough to make it a solid, good, really good film performance and great setup and a great performance from the actors and a great storyline. What I also love about A Streetcar Named Desire, that it has a surreal, realistic gothic atmosphere, the darkness. It really feels more like a play Broadway set rather than really feeling like a Hollywood film studio. The characters are very real and really convincing. You really feel the presence of the characters, if they were right in front of you, as if you were really talking to them, or as if you were right next to them. The characters are also a little bit whacked crazy, but they have interesting point of views though when you think about it sometimes. I think this film is just brilliant, amazing, and fantastic. Some of the best performances we've ever seen in a film ever. Vivian Leigh's performance in this film as Blanche Du Bois is just as great as Gone with the Wind. If you love Gone with the Wind, you'll love her in this film too. Blanche Du Bois is a sad, tragic character who lives in her own fantasies and cannot accept her own reality. She can't accept the fact that her husband was gay and that he killed himself, the way she lost him. She's also a compulsive liar, that she lies that the reason why she left her job is because of all the stress, where in reality, she was fired from the job for having an affair with one of the students. She's a little bit awkward at times. When she sees a young boy and asking for a donation, an usher, she looks at the boy and reminds her of the young boy she had the affair with at the school, and she gives him a kiss. Very awkward. And the way it ends in a sad tragedy where they let her live her fantasies instead of letting her know that she's going to a mental institution. Kind of the same way to Sunset Boulevard ending in some ways. Instead, let them live their fantasies and tell them the real truth of where they're going. Despite her flaws and insanities, the only thing you do sympathize with her about is you feel sorry and sad how, when she is raped by Stanley, that no one will believe her because of her mental health problem. In the movie, I like how we see how when the sets are bigger, and as the movie goes on, we see the sets small increase in size. It shows how her insanity and how claustrophobic she can be. Marlon Brando's performance as Stanley, if you want an example of good method acting, this is it. It's amazing how he does such a great job and gave a great performance that he did not win the Academy Award that year despite being the founder of method acting that year. Instead, Humphrey Bogart for African Queen won the award for Best Actor that year. Stanley is an abusive piece of shit, garbage, and a prick, and an asshole. He's a terrible person and a bad husband to Stella. He's also big-mouthed and cannot keep a secret. When Stella told him not to tell Blanche that she was pregnant, he ends up telling her anyway. After a poker game, when he hits Stella and shouts to Stella to come back, it's like, how can you go back to this guy after the way he treated her? Despite his ego, he was right about Blanche's background and that she lied. It doesn't mean that he's a better person. We sympathize with Stella, and it's sad that she's not smart enough to leave Stanley the first time after when he hit her. At the same time, the downside is she had no idea where she would go if she left Stanley, because at that time, women were only housewives and didn't have the opportunity to leave their husbands at that time if they were in abusive relationships. A really good sister to Blanche, she really loves and cares for her. The only downside is that Blanche will not, let her in her life, and she shuts her out and won't tell her the truth. Chill's a very likable, very lovable guy. He's a gentleman, he's charming, he really loves and cares for Blanche. Despite being mad at her for lying to him, deep down he still loved her, but at the same time, he couldn't marry her because of her past. Through the video, and you guessed it, it's time for facts on A Streetcar Named Desire. In real life, Vivien Leigh suffered from bipolar disorder. Despite Blanche being older, in real life, Vivien Leigh was 36 years old. Film composer Alex North composed the first jazz-oriented and dramatic film. Depend on the Kindness of Strangers, voted number 75 best movie quote of all time by the American Film Institute. During the making of this film, Vivien Leigh and Marlon Brando did not get along at first when they made this film because of their different style of acting, because Vivien Leigh was not familiar with method acting and the Slavinsky method acting because of her different background in acting. But eventually the two became good friends as time went on when they started to respect each other more when they learned about each other's different style of acting. Marlon Brando had to be restitched and washed several times when they had to redo another take. Film premiere, Elia Kazan's date was Marilyn Monroe, who introduced her to Arthur Miller, one of her future husbands. Mention with Vivien Leigh and the cast members because a lot of the actors were Broadway actors, and she had never done Broadway, but was still a very talented actress despite not being on Broadway, ever. Vivien Leigh played Blanche at a London premiere of A Streetcar Named Desire that was directed by her husband, Laurence Olivier. Marlon Brando was paid $75,000 for his role as Stanley, and Vivien Leigh was paid over $100,000 for her role as Blanche. William Wyler had expressed interest in directing this film with Bette Davis in mind. Despite playing Stanley, in real life, Marlon Brando hated the character Stanley. Because in real life, Marlon Brando was eccentric and he liked playing pranks on film sets. He was offered the role of Stanley but was turned down by RK Studios. Brando worked out for the role of Stanley to have a chiseled body for the character of Stanley. The entire movie takes place in the Kowalski apartment, but sometimes there were other locations where the film took place. There was supposed to be an original uncut edited edition version of this movie, where fans and audiences decide which version of the film they liked better. But unfortunately, Elia Kazan refused to shoot an uncut edit edition version. This quote, "Stella, hey Stella," was voted number 45, quote, by the American Film Institute. I forgot to mention earlier, the first time I ever heard this quote was in a Seinfeld and Everybody Loves Raymond episode. Even if you have not seen this movie, everyone knows that famous quote from parodies or references from other movies and shows. In interviews that Marlon Brando was inspired from his real-life father, how abusive he was when he was a kid to him growing up. Time in film history where a film won an Academy Award for both Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress in the same category for Supporting Actor and Actress. The film was shot on a 36-day tight schedule. Olivia de Havilland was offered the role of Blanche, but she was turned down because of her salary being way too much excessive. Marlon Brando was a very sensitive person, unlike Stanley. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to mention it again because despite Marlon Brando being the founder of method acting around this time, It's sad to say he did not win the Academy Award that year for Tennessee Williams' film adaptation. Originally offered to play the role of Blanche, but instead, Vivien Leigh ended up getting the part instead of Jessica Tandy. Vivien Leigh won an Academy Award for Best Actress. Her first film to win an Academy Award was Gone with the Wind. And Mickey Coon is the last surviving member of this movie. A review on A Streetcar Named Desire. Hope you liked and enjoyed it. Please like the video, hit that notification button, and subscribe to get my latest updates on my channel. See you next time. Goodbye.